Audrey, United Kingdom. She was 50 years old. Betty Skinner was 52. Just a brief mention. The rest, I think, are all from Brazil. Tiffany, don't have a full name. She was 18, so they're all over them. Crystal, otherwise known as Alexandre Nascimento de Arrojo, and also in Brazil. Milana, also in Brazil. Tony Gretchen, also in Brazil. I think that's...
Tati, that's all the name we have. Belo Horizonte, Brazil. Raíssa, also Lorivaldo Xavier. Cuiabá, Mato Grosso, Brazil. Juju, also known as Julian de Sousa Cruz, 32 years old. Salgueiro, Pernambuco, Brazil. Sarita, also known as Marcos de Almeida Oliveira. Itabela, Bahia, Brazil. Joyce, also known as José Antonio Beira Freitas. From Teresina, Piauí, Brazil.
All represented.
Unknown woman, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Another unknown woman, Sao Paulo, Brazil. Lu Celio Martins de Silva, Minas Gerais, Brazil. Sarita de Sampaio, 39 years old, Teresina, Brazil. Kitana Aracaju, Brazil. Camila Veronese, 24 years old, Sao Paulo, Brazil.
We have an unknown woman from Paraba, Brazil. And another unknown woman. She was hit with an iron bar in Sierra, Brazil. And a third unknown woman who was dismembered in Brazil. Andre Luis Rocha, Mato Grosso, Brazil. Giovanni Souza Silva, Sao Paulo, Brazil. And Mia Henderson from Baltimore, Maryland.
Yeah, we should learn Spanish
Oh, Portuguese.
or Brazilian. Unknown woman, Manaus, Brazil. Rosa Maria, Sao Paulo, Brazil. Valkyria, from Mato Grosso, Brazil. Milet, San Antonio, Brazil. Andressa, from Paraíba, Brazil.
Rafaela, age 32, Recife, Brazil. Prince Joe, 18 years old, Belize City, Belize. Reika Tomaz, 20 years old, Fortaleza, Brazil. Paloma, Belém, Brazil. And Alex Medeiros, age 8, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil.
Paula from Arando, Sao Paulo, Brazil. Candy Hall from Maryland in the United States. Marcia Moraes from Rio Grande do Sul, Brazil. Another unknown woman was killed from 4 gunshot wounds, Rio Grande do Sul, Brazil. Kayla Joker from Istanbul, Turkey. An unknown woman, again from Sao Paulo, Brazil. Alisson Enrique da Silva from Rio Grande Norte, Brazil. Denise Brandão from Minas Gerais, Brazil. Lele from Roatan, Honduras. Macaulay Castro from Piauí, Brazil. Kellen Santorini from Minas Gerais, Brazil. Another unknown woman from Alagoas, Brazil. Guldos Santos from Alagoas, Brazil. Anya Parker from Los Angeles, California. Bruna Likes from Mato Grosso, Brazil. Mahadevi from Karnataka, India. Chris from Foz do Iguaçu, Brazil. Karen Alanis from Sao Paulo, Brazil. Alejandro Leos from Tennessee, Memphis. And on October 12th of this year, Jeffrey Laud in Manila, the Philippines. I invite us now, as we are able, to stand for a moment of silence. As we remember all of these people, hold them in our hearts, and light the way toward a brighter future, where no one is killed or injured or harmed because of their gender identity or gender expression. Are there other names you would like to lift who may not have died this year, but who hold a place in your heart?
Yes. I want to mention Terry Benelli, who was murdered in July of 2009 in Albuquerque. And Kelly Watson, who was murdered a few weeks earlier, also in Albuquerque. And then 5 years earlier than that, in 2004, Vera Shea Husky,
They were all different ages, but they were all Navajos. They were Nagligi, that is, they were two-spirited. And not only were they murdered and their murderers were never found, it could have been the same person, who knows. But the Albuquerque media repeatedly referred to these three Nagligi as cross-dressed men and called them by their former male names. I think Terry had actually changed her name. The other two, they totally ignored the fact that they were two-spirited. And hence I wanted to mention that even in New Mexico, we can have these problems.
I invite you now to sit, and we have a final song.
I wanted to say that, as I mentioned in the song, we can't blame our abuser. There are victims just like we. We all hold responsibility, and we need to let go of that hatred in our hearts, and we need to forgive. And I think only through forgiveness and love will we change the world that we are living in. Because when does it stop? When does the cycle end? We continue to hold that hatred towards those that hurt us, and it's just a never-ending war. The song that I'm about to do next, I also wrote, and it's called Hurt. Brother, why can't you see? You're no different than me. Sister, why must you laugh? We come from the same path. There are those that will hurt us. There are those that won't believe. No, they won't. They talk about us. Oh, we all tend to bleed. Dying slowly, can't you see? Dying slowly, can't you see? Take a look deep inside you. Do you mean what you say? Were you once hurt or angered by the choices I made? By the choices we made. There are those that will hurt us. They will. There are those that won't believe. They won't. They talk bad about us. Oh, we all tend to bleed. Dying slowly, can't you see? Dying slowly, can't you see? We all dream to be happy. We all need to be loved. No one wants to be beaten, ridiculed or denounced. Please find love and acceptance. Let this world come around. Oh, let this world come around. There are those you see. Thank you. Many blessings.
We forgot the two Filipinos who were murdered last month.
I do have some CDs for sale there.
I almost forgot. Actually, let me look up in my calendar. There were two, can you hear me? There were two Filipinos, I don't have it with me, who had been murdered in about the last month. One of them made the news, was Jennifer Loudy. I think she was only 19 or something like that. And she was murdered, it's believed by a U.S. Marine. And it's expected that her being trans had something to do with it. The other one is a little less certain. It was about a week later, so it was about a week ago or two. It was an older woman, about 55, who was closing up. I think she actually owned the bar where she worked, and she was closing up, and someone beat her to death. I wish I could remember her name. This is quite recent. And whether or not her being trans, I guess she was, and I don't know what that might have had to do with it. But the listing wasn't updated in time for those, and those are probably just a sampling. The first name I read, Cowdery, she was murdered on last November 20th. So, you know, it's an ongoing problem.
Thank you all. The work continues. Carry the light.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having it.
It's all about education and also educating the trans community as well, which I think.
Kind of like we're preaching to the choir, though.
So we have some refreshments
Well,
back
you
there.
gotta start with the choir, right?
Right.
Yes, a good way of putting it.
I learned a lot tonight.